Go for gold. For those of you who were thinking that this is an investment workshop about to start investing in gold during these uncertain times, wrong workshop. We are here to discuss how to live our best life. What does it mean to have a golden life? And usually, when we think about living our best life, the association is with material success, about the things around us. But you can have all of that. Everything around could be perfect, and inside you could be lonely. Around you, the relationships may not be well. Physically, we may not be healthy. Today is about examining what does golden living look like. And you're welcome to put it in the chat, your particular ideas. Today we're going to discuss a few concepts of what golden living is. Golden living is a combination of factors. It's about feeling light about how you approach life. It is about, yes, being successful, being confident in what you do, but it's also feeling fulfilled, being at peace. And we are fortunate to have been exposed to a subject called Vedanta. And what Vedanta does is it gives us a concept and an idea of what an ideal life, what ideal living looks like. And why this is important is because unless we conceive it, we won't be able to achieve it. About a week ago, we were doing sessions in the beautiful Ananda Spa, and there we were talking about stress. And I asked the question, can you imagine a life without stress? And the response was, impossible, no way. It's possible. And then I asked another question, when you think about rest, what do you picture? And people said the beach, being asleep, maybe having a glass of wine or putting your feet up by the poolside. And I asked anybody, for any of you, is it being at work? No, not at all. It's the opposite. But this is exactly it. Why can't our concept of rest be when we're at work, when we're in flow, when we're doing what we've decided to do, where we've decided to invest so much of our time in life? Why can't we find that rest? And this is why it's important today to at least conceive it. It's something like in athletics, there is a coach. And in any professional sport or an elite athlete has a coach because whilst a person might have the talent, they need the help of a coach to see how much more they can get from their performance, how much more they can get from their body. The coach in life is the philosophy of Vedanta. You see it on the screen. It comes from two Sanskrit words. Veda means knowledge, Anta means end. And therefore, it presents the complete knowledge of life. But it also takes us to the acme, the pinnacle of what living is meant to be, enlightened, which is a combination of all these factors of being light, of being fulfilled, of being dynamic, productive, happy, at peace. And what Vedanta does is very similar to a coach. It guides us shoulder to shoulder. It takes us along the path and says, this is what you can do with your life. This is how much more we're capable of. So we don't have to accept these preconceived notions that relationships have to be difficult, that work has to be stressful. We can change it. And this is about elite living. Oscar Wilde, he says, to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist. Today, we want to go for gold. And the way we're going to go for gold is three principles. The first, purpose. The second, peace of mind. And the third, presence. We'll go one by one. But at the heart of it, how does all this change happen? And the only way it's going to change is if we are open to changing our thinking. As you think, so you become. As your thoughts, so your world. Change your thoughts, you change your world. Albert Einstein, he says, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So it comes down to, with what are we thinking? Every human being is made up of the acronym BMI. For our regular students, you might be familiar with this. BMI is?
Body mass index.
Oh no.
Body, mind, intellect. Body, mind, intellect.
Body, mind, intellect. We want to change that BMI being body mass index, which needs to be modernized, which is one way of measuring your health, not such a reliable indicator, to body, mind, intellect. Because the basis of this is the mechanism of how we make decisions, how we choose, how we analyze, and how we move from a mode of just surviving to thriving, going for gold. So, see it on the chart. Every human being is made up of a body. The body is your vehicle. It moves you from experience to experience. But what's important is who's driving the body. And behind the body, there are two drivers. Can either be your mind or your intellect. Now, the mind is that part of you. Sometimes we call it the heart. But if you were to dissect the heart, you will not find it the center of emotions. But that's what the mind is. The mind is the center of emotions, feelings, desires, likes and dislikes, impulses, attachments. Now, the intellect, on the other hand, is very different. So, whereas the mind just flows, we call it subconscious because sometimes you can have an emotion and not be aware that you're going through the emotion. But an intellect is where the awareness comes in, is where we start being conscious about how we're feeling, about what we're doing and what we're thinking. And when we have the intellect, there is the ability to analyze, reason, judge, decide. Now, when you make a choice, which one are we using? You can either use the mind or the intellect or both. Now, examine your choices. How did you choose your partner? Mind or intellect? How did you choose your career? Mind or intellect? How did you choose what you study in university? Mind or intellect? What do you choose? We've got so many different countries here. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Is it with your mind or is it with your intellect? Now let's examine them. Because if you go with your mind alone, this is the survival mode. Because the mind is designed and its default setting is where to find instant gratification, instant pleasure, instant happiness. This is the setting of the mind. But what is the intellect's default setting? The intellect's default setting is to look long term. How to enjoy today, yes. So it's not there to destroy the mind's pleasure. So often when we look at some of these ideas of thinking and reasoning and judging and deciding, we find it analytical, we find it boring, robotic. But that's not a developed intellect. A developed intellect takes your mind's emotions into account, into part of the consideration, because a human being is both a feeling and a thinking being. But when we make a decision, that is the job of the intellect. And we compromise our choices and decisions when we go on the mind alone, because the mind's job is not to think about the consequences. So it'll enjoy today, but it might suffer tomorrow. You party too hard on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, first day coming up, and everybody is unconscious, horizontal, or a headache, hangover. But if we go with the intellect, enjoy the party, but don't party so hard that you can't wake up the next morning and enjoy New Year's Day too. The idea of the intellect is to live a life where you're clear about what you're doing. You're not chasing momentary pleasures because they come and go. They don't last very long. But you're building a life of fulfillment. You're building a life where you're constantly at peace, happy. But how does this intellect work? And how do we start moving from the mind side to the intellect side? If we go with the mind, think about the decisions that we've made with the mind. Even if we just approach work with our mind, if you're feeling happy one day, it's a good work day. If you're feeling down, body's not cooperating, mind is feeling lethargic, it's a terrible day at school, terrible day at university, terrible day at work. But with the intellect, you can change that. You can still do what needs to be done, irrespective if the mind is cooperating or not. Thomas Huxley says, perhaps the most valuable result of all education is the ability to do the thing you have to do when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. It is the first lesson that is learned, and however early a person's training begins, it is probably the last lesson a person learns thoroughly. This is it. Are we able to do what we've decided to do? One of the suggestions I'm going to make is about waking up a little bit earlier, investing in yourself in this golden life by developing your intellect. And you might get inspired and you might set that alarm for half an hour earlier, 1 hour earlier. And when the alarm rings in the morning, snooze. Snooze. And for those of you who set your alarms on your phone, it's very interesting. How many alarms do you have? Some people have 6:05, 6:10, 6:15, and then 6:17, 6:19, 6:20. Why so many alarms? You decided to wake up. Why aren't we able to do what we've decided to do? Because we wake up in the morning and the mind goes, you read that article about how important sleep is? And the mind sabotages us. It sabotages the life we want to build, the life we want to achieve. So let's see what the difference is and find out which one are you and the shift that we need to make. So if you look on the left-hand side is the mind side. It's when you're in survival mode. So you approach your work, you approach life mechanical. You're not initiating. But when you move to the intellect side, you enter the thrive mode. You're purposeful. On the mind side, if you're feeling tired, it's because all the time you're identifying with your emotions, with your feelings at that particular time and point. But if you work with your intellect, you're clear about your purpose, you're clear about why you're doing what you're doing, you find yourself energetic. Your work actually fulfills you because it's taking you to where you want to go. From unfulfilled to inspired. From inconsistent, because the mind's emotions fluctuate. With the intellect, it regulates them, becomes consistent. From complaining, the mind always wants its way, and it'll find the slightest excuse to stop any effort, to put in the hard work, because it wants to avoid that for instant pleasure. But with the intellect, you go into thrive mode. You take responsibility for your life, for your action, for your choice. From victim mode, blaming everybody else, everything else except yourself, to master mode. I am the architect of my fortune. I am the architect of my misfortune. I don't blame the stars, the planets, the moon. I make myself, I mar myself. This is the thrive mode. But for this intellect to work, how do we decide whether something is positive for us, negative for us? Anybody? Whether we should take it up or not take it up?
If it's aligned with our goals.
Our goals. And just to add one more aspect to it, the intellect has got to be clear about what our goals are, but also what are our roles. And to clearly define your goal, in the sense, can you say in a phrase, what do you want? Because if you don't have that clarity, when the intellect has to consult and go up and say, am I aligned to my goal? If you don't know what that is, no wonder there is indecision, lack of clarity, gray. But if you're clear about it, if you're inspired by it, it becomes clear. But the other one is role. And roles are the different aspects in life that you've taken up. What is my role as a father? What is my role as a son, a daughter? What is my role as a parent? What is my role as a sister-in-law? And the important thing here is, it does not work when society imposes it on you, or your partner tells you what your role is. You have to decide that role for yourself. This is the kind of sister-in-law I would like to be. This is the kind of son, parent I aspire to be. And when you do that, the complaining stops, because you've clearly decided that this is what I want to be. If it's beyond that, I don't see it as my obligation. And if it's within that, yes, this is what I want to take up. And why that changes is because every step that you make, you get charged because you see it as a step closer to the kind of person you want to be, to the goal that you're working for. It's actually not even in the achievement of the goal that is important. So when we talk about going for goal, it's about moving with purpose, not necessarily achieving it. Because when you achieve it, you have to set another goal. And the only goal that does not have another goal that the mind wants, having achieved it, is enlightenment. Only when you achieve enlightenment can you really throw up your arms and say, I'm done. I've got it all. The mind seeks nothing else. But until then, stay in the pursuit. But when we choose a purpose, an important aspect here is it in line with your nature? And when we talk about purpose, yes, it means the intellect setting a goal, but that goal should be aligned to your tendencies, your inclinations, what you enjoy, what you're talented at, what you find comes easily to you. And that word in Sanskrit is called Swadharma. Swa means one's own, Dharma means nature. What is your nature? What are you inclined towards? And it is not something that changes. So it would have been there since childhood. It's your tendency in, it could be building things, taking things apart. And some clues to try and identify your Swadharma is to look at what podcasts do you listen to? What books do you choose to read? When you have conversations, what are the topics that you bring up? What are you inclined towards? And when you're in that particular subject, whether studying it or reading it, you find the time flies by. Now, how do you know if it's not your nature? It is called paradharma, alien nature. It means that same effort that you're putting in, you find it so much harder because you're going against a headwind. You don't have the support of your nature behind you. So it's twice the amount of effort. So it could be accounts if you're not inclined towards accounting. It could be mathematics if you're not inclined there. So you can do it. You can even succeed, but it takes so much effort because you're going against your nature. Now, we have been given a nature. Why not use it? In the orchestra of life, it is our obligation to find out what is our role, what is our instrument, and play it to the best of our ability. Look at what we're designed to do and simply play it. Just do it. But society makes us believe that it is worth going into a headwind because of material success, because of quick profit, quick gain. Coming from a third generation business family, being the eldest son, there was a natural pressure for me to take up the family business. But when I analyzed my personality, I realized I perhaps could have been successful at business, but it would not have used me up 100%. It would not have inspired me. And the concern I had was, what if I wake up 20 years, 30 years down the line and feel, oops, wrong parking? I wanted to find something that I would want to wake up for, that I want to look forward to. And when I examined my personality, and I was fortunate because I was introduced to the Vedanta Academy earlier, which gives you the knowledge and the foundation to examine yourself, I realized my personality is philosophical. I enjoy public speaking right from childhood. And the third aspect is I wanted to do something in service. So when I looked at these three aspects, I was like, great. Sharing Vedanta ticks all the boxes. I'll continue in this field. 25 years down the line, I can tell you, I want to continue doing this indefinitely. As long as I can, if I can keep myself healthy and do it with longevity, I want to keep doing it. But what is our mode of functioning? Earn a lot, retire, and then do what? Do what you want. Does that make sense? Why not figure out what you want to do earlier when you have all the life, when you have all the youth, when you can build your craft, where you can refine your craft? And perhaps our measure of success needs to change. Albert Schweitzer, he says, success is not the key to happiness, but happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. It's a question of time because you're ready to put in the effort. You're ready to go through that difficulty because the difficulty doesn't seem that difficult because you enjoy the work that you do. Mark Twain, similar vein, he says, find a job you love doing and you will never have to work a day in your life. Now, finding Swadharma is not easy. But at least let's lean the majority of our actions towards it. And no doubt in any field, there will be some aspects that you have to persevere through. Maybe it's not aligned to your nature, but that's just the cost of choosing what you've decided to do. And for others who don't know what the Swadharma is, so for those youngsters in the group today, what effort are we putting in to find that? What analysis are we examining to see if it aligns with our personality, to try and test it in the world and see which portfolios, which particular type of work best aligns with your personality? If you don't know your Swadharma, find out. And a popular idea is to take a gap year. But gap year for what? To collect experiences? Now, if you're using it to examine different types of internships? Yes. So to try different jobs? Yes, that becomes purposeful. But to simply wander around doesn't necessarily reveal who you are. Rather than going out, we need to go in and analyze. We have more than enough data. Which subjects inspired us? Which subjects didn't inspire us? So whilst it is not easy to figure out what we're designed for, what effort are we putting in to find out that role? Lao Tzu, he says, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that's the beauty of purpose. You just need to know the next step. So the next step could be to analyze my personality. The next step could be to find out what life is about. The next step could be to find out what this golden living is about. That's your next step. You may not know what it is just yet, but setting the very next step, that's enough. Sometimes we get overwhelmed. When we hear today's lecture, going for gold, and we're talking about peace of mind, being light, happy, fulfilled, we're like, next lifetime. This lifetime. And how do we start? With the next step. Swami Parthasarathi gives a beautiful example. He talks about sometimes you don't know a destination. It's far off and it's dark. How are you going to find your way? And all you have for a 200-kilometer journey are the headlights of your car. And no doubt the road is ahead. And how far do the headlights project? How much light does it give? 30 meters? Let's say 30 meters, 50 meters. It projects 50 meters. But that 50 meters, you keep on going, is enough to take you to your destination. All we need to know is the next step. And taking the next step becomes purposeful. So whilst we may not know exactly what our purpose is, we don't know what our goals are, we don't know what our roles are, do you know your next step? Take the next step. The second aspect in a golden life is to have peace of mind. So once we start moving to thrive mode, you find you become consistent, you start becoming efficient, and you're productive. And I'm sure we've met people who are extremely productive in what they do. They might be masters in what they're doing. And we find this with sportsmen and athletes and business people. They find the right subject, they find the right field. And when they get into it, they start doing well, extremely well, but the anxiety comes in and the peace of mind goes. The destroyer of our peace of mind is uncontrolled desires. The uncontrolled desires of the mind come in and they wreak havoc in our personality. Because what they do is, as long as the desire is unfulfilled, it agitates us. So it's a little voice going, feeling hungry, desire for food, desire for food, desire for where? During the lesson. During the session now, your mind is going hungry. What's for dinner? What's for lunch? And this is what the mind is doing. But it's not just one desire. And depending on the strength of it, that's the intensity of it. So if it is so strong, you're so hungry. Sometimes I see this. People put their video off, put the audio on mute, they go and get some snacks. Why? Because the desire is too strong. But that's one desire. Now we have a desire for a new car, a new holiday destination, better marks, better results, for a deal to come through. We have so many different desires, but all of this is keeping us awake at night. All these different thoughts going, geopolitical stability, new government, new protocol, new policies, new partners should behave better. Parents should be understanding. Children should be more cooperative. We've got so many desires. And this agitates us. This removes our peace of mind. And the best way to quell these desires, to find peace of mind, is to pitch up a higher desire. And when I say a higher desire, it means to work for something bigger than yourself. So if you find that you are extremely agitated, question, what am I working for? What is my purpose for? And if my purpose is just for me, if my purpose is selfish, do not expect peace of mind. The more selfish you are, the more agitated. The more unselfish, the higher your goal, the more peaceful you are. And the psychology of it is this. If you look at this pyramid, when you pitch up a higher desire, because it is better in quality, it is less in quantity. So when you start working for something higher, it could be the World Cup is coming up next year, the Football World Cup, and you're working for that World Cup. The smaller desires don't matter so much. You want to produce a beautiful tournament. So perhaps you're on the broadcasting aspect. So you're not so concerned about what pillow you have, what room that you're in, whether it has a view or not. You're concerned about the work. You're concerned about a beautiful experience for the rest of the world. So the higher your goal, the lower desires drop off. Our teacher, we've seen him over the decades. Some really tough times in the beginning. He was traveling in his 70s and 80s, and sometimes straight from a transatlantic journey, lands in the US, and takes a lecture on the same day. Handful of people in the audience. Not sure where the next contribution or sponsorship is. Going to the supermarket, buying some peanuts for lunch. And when we asked him, Swamiji, how did you go through all that difficulty in the beginning? Because if you visit the Vedanta Academy now, very comfortable, excellent menu, but in the beginning, not so much. And we asked him, how did you manage through all that difficulty? And he said, I have not known a day of difficulty in my life. Wow. Because when you are inspired by your goal, when you're working for something larger, that's simply the cost of the goal. That's simply the price of the effort. And because you value your goal so much, you find it mighty, you find it valuable, you find it inspiring, you're ready to put in that effort. I come from a family, I mentioned a business family. We have public transport. So we used to run a fleet of buses for the city. The irony was, I never used public transport. So I've never been in a bus. But then I come to India, and my role in the academy was to do the printing of the books. And we had a budget of what we were allowed to spend on travel. So I would go by public transport on a bus that was not air conditioned, sometimes not enough seats. So I'm sitting next to the driver, and I never thought of it. And my teacher used to get so tickled that here is this boy who has buses and is now, for the first time, using public transport, going up and down in India to go and print books. But that's it. When you're inspired by something, you don't feel the inconvenience because it's taking you to where you want to go. It's taking you to the person you want to be. So let us look and examine. What is the circle that we work for? If you work just for yourself, smaller circle, limited motivation, because you're not interested in the work. You're interested in your comforts, your conveniences. In fact, if you could get what you wanted, the salary, you would not work at all. But a person who's interested in something bigger, bigger circle could be the family, or it could be the community. I know a person who planted trees all down the streets of her suburb. What an idea. Or it could be for your country. How can we make a product that makes our country proud, that puts our country on the map? What are you working for? It could be just for your team. You may not have the influence of the company, but you can make it a better work experience for your team. I want people in our team to enjoy coming to work. I want our family to feel supported. Whatever is your realm of influence, stretch it to your capacity. If you can, all human beings, everybody needs this technology of life called Vedanta. Why not share it with the world? Comes from India, but it's for every human being. But then, why just human beings? How can we impact the lives of animals, environment? So, as per your capacity, take up the larger goal. Now, what changes here is most people work for incentive, rewards, or threat, but not initiative. And ask yourself, what am I working for? If it's coming from outside, it's incentive. You're being drawn because of the promise of reward. It's the carrot idea. Put a carrot in front and the mule walks towards it. For us, why don't we change it? And I'm not saying don't have the salary, don't have the bonuses. I'm saying let's change the why and let it be about initiative. Initiative comes from within because you want to do what you're doing. If you have this higher ideal, this unselfish motive towards your work, in short, service, giving. It doesn't mean necessarily for free. It's the attitude of it. It means like if a patient comes in to a doctor and the doctor sees the patient and says, wonderful, that is my next vacation taken care of. Do you want to squeeze the other person? Or do you think, how can I be of service to the other person? How can I treat this patient so well that perhaps they never come back to me? Not because I'm a terrible doctor, but because I treat the person so well. And that kind of doctor, people will stay. So the idea is changing the why. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful concept where it talks about yoga, evolution. And it says evolution yoga is made up of two things. And it's from chapter 2, verses 48 and 50, where it says, evenness of mind is yoga. Means if you are peaceful, you are evolving. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Evenness of mind is yoga. But also, what is evolution? Skill in action is yoga. Which is what? It means doing your job beautifully, gracefully, masterfully. Whatever your job is. It could be washing cars. It could be washing the dishes. Whatever role you take up, doing it expertly. So, evenness of mind and skill in action are the same. And why they go hand in hand is because if your mind is agitated, if it's not at peace, whatever action you do, if you see the diagram here, whatever effort you put in, and that's the incident ray, and it hits the mind, which is this pool of water, and it's agitated. Whatever effort you put in, it will be reflected as agitated. So now, if I've just found out someone in the family is not well, mind is agitated, but that means my concentration in this lecture will be compromised. But if I'm able to keep evenness of mind, samatvam, if the mind is absolutely peaceful, because I'm working for a higher ideal, whatever effort I put in, you get the maximum output. We become efficient, we become productive. So stress actually makes our efforts worse. It dilutes the potency of our study, the potency of our efforts. Now people think you need to be stressed to work. It's the opposite. If you work when you are peaceful, you perform better. The last aspect for today is presence. And presence just means whatever you decide to do, be here. Because the past is dead. It no longer exists. The future is unknown. It's fiction. The only thing that is real for any of us is this present moment. And if we miss it because our mind is regretting something we did in the past or is anxious about something in the future, we miss out on living. Living can only happen in the present. And let us commit or decide to be more present, more conscious, to understand that when we are thinking about the past and future, these are distractions, these take away from the quality of our life, this takes away from our energy. It is not the number of actions that make you tired. It is the mind going into the past and into the future. Be in the present. Now, I'm not saying we don't learn from the past. So, the idea of history, the idea of those past experiences, let's analyze it, take the lessons, and then archive it. The future is based on what happens in the present. So let's focus our efforts on the present rather than being anxious about the future. If all the time you're anxious about studying and don't study, how can you do well in the exams? If all the time you're anxious about performing in the next quarter, but you're not doing the right process, how will you perform? The present is where the power is, where the energy is, where living is. Lao Tzu, he puts it beautifully. He says, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. So ask yourself, where is my mind? Is it past, future? If it is, how do I bring it back into the present? 100% here. And the two things that take us away from this present moment, probably the biggest distraction is our phone. Because with our phone, when we're in the present, perhaps with family, having a meal, our mind goes. We're thinking about the next activity. And it's so sad because when we go to the next place, we're texting the person, what a lovely meal we had. Put that phone away. Be where you've decided to be. Put your notifications on silent. I'm on the other extreme. My phone is constantly on do not disturb. If it's an emergency, people will get hold of me. But to have that phone constantly disturb your interaction, your connection, your focus, your concentration on what you've decided to do, it's stopping us from living. And what we do usually with social media is we compare. We compare what others are doing in life, how they're faring. All of this is distraction because it's other people's lives. We have our own tools, we have our own Swadharma, we have our own journey in life to pursue. Rather than wasting time looking at everybody else's life, let me be the best version of myself. Franklin Roosevelt, he says, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare with others. What is the point? They are them, you are you. So then where should our attention be? Simply put, in being better, in crafting and building this golden life. William Wordsworth, he beautifully coins it. He says, from well to better, daily self-surpass. You just focus on yourself. Am I a little bit better than I was yesterday? What am I doing today to be a little bit better tomorrow? Am I putting in all the right habits to be happier today, for tomorrow, for the future? From well to better, daily self-surpass. And a practical way of doing this is we've got to understand that this life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So we've got to get the pace right. And when I say pace, it means schedule your present. Because when you schedule your present, your intellect knows where your mind needs to be. And it brings the mind back. So when it wanders, you bring it back to the present moment. But when we're scheduling our day, let us also schedule our rest so that there can be longevity in what we're doing. Now, when we talk about rest, especially with highly productive people, they use rest as another form of working. So they'll be lying down, but they'll be on phone calls or they'll be reading a book. You're still using your mental and intellectual capacity. Rest means stop. Go for a walk, whatever it is for you, listen to music, whatever shuts down your mind and intellect, rest. But in your day, you can even schedule social media. So I won't scroll during the day, but 7 to 7:30, I'll scroll. Just as a different form, event, just check what's going on in the world, fine. But schedule where you want your mind to be. You decide what is your present moment and strive to keep the mind there and see the difference in your energy. What is this going for gold? Going for gold is to live your highest life. I'd like to share a quote that I feel embodies this. It's by George Bernard Shaw, and it encompasses these three aspects for golden living. And he says, this is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, I want to do for it what I can. I want to be used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. Look at the power, the energy in this person's writing. You feel it. Your hair stands on end. Imagine being this force of nature. You're doing exactly what you're designed to do. You're at peace because you're fulfilled in doing that particular role. And you're in the present, using up all the talents that you've been given. So, to go for gold, three aspects. Purpose. Shift from surviving mode of the mind to thriving mode of the intellect. Choose a field that's in line with your Swadharma, so you get this tailwind in life. Peace. How do we get peace? Picture a higher ideal, so the lower desires drop off. And that means stretching our circle of identification to work for something larger than ourselves. The last aspect, presence. To live with purpose, in peace, in the present moment. How do we do this? Vedanta. Vedanta is the knowledge for life to help you go for gold. So analyze. If you're feeling directionless, a little bit lost, check your purpose. If you are feeling unhappy, heavy, check your intention. Who are you working for? And if you are feeling tired, check Where is your mind? Past, present, or future? So when we say go for gold, it's not by achieving more, but it's by acting with purpose, serving with peace, and living with presence. Go for gold. We'll take up the questions.
Do we choose our purpose or do we arrive with it in this world?
So, with respect to Swadharma, we arrive with it in this world. And that Swadharma has been created because of past actions, past seeds that we've sown. And that's why you find in a family, you might have 3 children, they're all brought up in the same environment, and yet each one has a different nature. In our family, one has a business nature, one has a sports nature, one has philosophical nature. Same family, same schools, different natures. So we're born with it in this world. Now, what we do with it is up to us now. What direction we give it? So you could go into business and be selfish. You could go into business and do service. That's up to what we do now. So the Swadharma part, it's from the past. What we do with the Swadharma is in the present.
How can one achieve the goal we've set for ourselves in work if others put hurdles or change the methods to achieving it to suit their way of doing things? How can we achieve our purpose if we have no money and a duty to obey parents who control what you can and cannot do?
Okay, if you can leave the question there. So, how can we achieve the goal that we have set for ourselves in work if others put hurdles or change the methods? So, when we're planning our goals, we have to assess all the factors around us. So, we have to assess the environmental factors. We've also got to assess our team, the people that we're working with. We've got to assess our financial resources. We've got to assess the time available. So it is important to set realistic goals, or at least intermittent goals. And the reason is because we will be disappointed if we set unrealistic goals and we'll lose inspiration because we don't find that we're moving. The goal has to be with the people that I'm working with the environment, with the office, it's going to move at this particular pace. If you are going to get a job done in different cities in the world, that job gets done at different paces. So you have to understand your city, the people that get it approved, and what you need to do to get it done so you can set a time frame. But to think because this is how they do it in Sydney or New York, and therefore we can do it in Bangalore like that is unrealistic. You've got to assess the people that you work with. So what we do is when we find these hurdles, don't give up. Take that data, the people that you're interacting with, their nature of changing things last minute, adding something last minute, and factor it into your work so you can achieve that goal. So if you know a person is difficult in the final meeting for approval, how do you get that person on board earlier? How do you soften that person in terms of vetting the idea beforehand? So when it comes to the meeting, you're not upstage. And the second part is, how can we achieve our purpose if we have no money and a duty to obey parents who control what you can and cannot do? So it depends on your age. So if you're under 18, you are under the guidance of your parents. So it's accepting that this is what it means up to this age. So I have limited scope. So I'm going to use this for my foundation. I'm going to use this for building the life that I want, my independence, setting all the skills in place. And then when I do have that independence as a adult, legal adult, I can set forth. But with full knowledge that with the parents' support, a little bit easier. Without the parents' support, more difficult. And fully assessing that. So you're not disappointed by the lack of support of the parents. You clearly understand, okay, it's going to take a little bit of time. If I can slowly get my parents on board with what I'd like to do, perhaps they could even support, be my first investors. So understand, as long as we're under their roof, under the age of 18, 21, there are obligations as their child. And they have that mandate. Okay.
Is working for larger circles, family, community, country about self-satisfaction?
Yes, it is. No, it isn't. And the reason why I say that is when you looked at that circles diagram, you are included. So you are included in the circles. So the family circle includes you, but the community circle also includes you. So when you expand yourself, what you're doing is you are expanding your identification. So instead of identifying with just this physical body, you're able to identify with those who have the same values, those who are from the same country, those who have the same ideologies, those who same species, inhabit the same planet. Depends on how much you can redefine your idea of who you are. What is your identity? If your identity is at the smallest, you have the smallest power. It's like identifying with the wave. So you only have the power of the wave. But if you identify with the sea, so much more power. But if you identify with the ocean, so much more power. Change your identity. But that takes knowledge. And that takes knowledge of how others are a part of you, how everything around you is a part of you. So until we have that understanding of how we are one, we won't feel it. Now, when you say you're doing something for yourself, then you won't really get the benefit of the service. You won't really get the benefit of the peace of mind because you're actually only interested in this body. So you're helping another person, but you're doing it for the feeling. You want that person to be grateful. You want that person to write a nice card, take a good picture with you of what you've given them. And you get a satisfaction. Oh, I'm a good person. This will give you more agitation in the future. When we serve, the idea is to genuinely serve the larger cause, which includes us. Yes, you can't neglect yourself or go beyond your capacity because then you won't be able to continue serving. So if you're thinking more about the pleasure that you get from service than the service, it won't work. But if you put the service first and your personal satisfaction is incidental, you're well on your way to having that peace of mind.
How do we strengthen staying in the present? Should we practice meditation?
The way to stay in the present. I gave a practical tip, which is to schedule your day from the time you wake up to the evening. So at least your mind knows where it should go. But if the mind doesn't know where it should go and you've got some free time, it'll go to its default attachments, its default traumas, interests, desires. And this is why we end up reaching for the phone. But if you know what you should be doing, it is so much easier to direct the mind there. So that's the first part. But even then, when you know what you should be doing, the only way you keep the mind there is if your intellect is stronger than your mind. Now, where is this development of the intellect? It's not taught in schools and universities. We need to develop this intellect to be strong enough to keep the mind where we want it to be. To do the things sometimes the mind doesn't want to do because it's necessary. It's not easy to go out and exercise. The mind would rather lays in bed. But the intellect says, no, no, no. We need to do this for the life we want. So the intellect's got to talk to the mind, educate the mind. And my question to our group, what are we doing to develop this intellect? In one lecture like this, or even for those of you who are on the Sunday Wisdom sessions, it is not enough. It requires daily provocation, daily doses of the knowledge of life. And it's not just acquiring more information, it's about thinking about it, reflecting on it until it becomes yours. Then the intellect gets stronger, then it's able to control the mind, keep it in the present. Meditation is the last part of the spiritual journey right before enlightenment. Its purpose is to take you to enlightenment. When should you practice meditation? And you see this in all the scriptures. It's when you already have a peaceful mind. When your mind is calm, when your desires are very few, when the only thing you really want in life is to find enlightenment, self-realization, then you are qualified for meditation. But now, if your mind is a flood of thoughts and desires, and you are trying to squeeze that flood into single-pointed concentration, which is meditation, which is thinking about one thought. So from a flood of thoughts to one titration of thought, you're going to burst your mind. Don't practice it. Now remember, people are calling meditation all sorts of things, but the real definition of meditation, as prescribed in the original text, is single-pointed concentration, where you take that one thought, because you only have a few, and you dissolve it in silence. And in that silence, you find your real identity, you find enlightenment. So until we're there, hold off on meditation. So we have a few questions to take up. So if the group is okay, I'll try and make the answers short and cover these pending questions.
Sometimes emotions override our decisions. How can we use intellect in relationships and avoid disappointment?
So the first aspect in relationships and when we're making decisions is that, yes, in relationships, it seems intuitive that we should use our mind when we're relating because it's got the feelings and emotions. This is the wrong notion. In fact, if you say everything that is on your mind to your partner, it'll probably be the shortest relationship. Can you imagine if you said everything that you were thinking to your partner? The mind by itself does not have a direction, does not have a dimension. And sometimes if we say something in the heat of emotion, could be anger, you can damage that relationship irrevocably. In a relationship, we need both. So to have the emotion, but we need to filter it through the intellect to figure out when is the right time, to which person, in which context. So often we think of affection, positive emotion, right? No. If you give too much affection, you suffocate the other person. But also, if you give too little affection, the person feels taken for granted. So the intellect has to come in to decide how much affection to give according to the other person's receptivity. That requires so much thinking to get relationships right. So first aspect in relationships with the intellect is we need before we express the emotion, to filter it through the intellect, to check if it's actually beneficial to the relationship. The second aspect is if we are extremely emotional. Remember the diagram with the pool of thoughts? If your mind is emotional, very agitated, we're going to make bad decisions. So try not to make a decision when you are too emotional. Wait if you can. Try and get the mind to calm down. Because the more emotional we are, the more susceptible we are to making a wrong decision. And the last aspect for relationships is instead of seeing the person that we care about through the mind, which is how we would like them to be, let us see them through the intellect of how they actually are. Because each person behaves according to their nature, not according to what we want. So rather than being in love with the idea of a person, let's try and accept and understand the person in reality. This is called assessment. We have enough data about our family, about the people we relate with, but we don't analyze it, we don't accept it, and then with our intellect, relate and meet that person accordingly. Next question.
Can Swadharma change over time as we grow and evolve? How can we know that this will not take us away from our duties to our family?
Yes, Swadharma can change, but it will take a lot of time and effort to change it. Because remember, it's got that momentum of the past. So just as if you're driving on an expressway and you're going at a particular speed, you can't change direction suddenly. It's got to be done gradually in curves. So same thing with our personality. We can change our nature. Suppose you've got some negative aspects, some negative nature. We can change it. That's why we are here. But it will take time and effort. And the nature that is positive and that we want to encourage and that we can go with, embrace it. And what is the second question? So yes, we can change our Swadharma, but it will take time and effort.
How can we know that this will not take us away from our duties to family?
So when we are in the direction of building this golden life, what you'll find is since you are improving yourself as a person, since you are getting into this knowledge, if anything, it will make you better in that particular duty. Because now you're not complaining, you're not blaming the other person, you're deciding to take up that duty. So you don't look at duty as a burden, you look at duty as an opportunity to evolve. So all the particular roles that you do, you will do it gracefully, you will do it beautifully. Sometimes people take up one particular role, they say that they want to do it well, and they make a nightmare of it. And they make the other person feel so guilty. They make the other person feel so obliged to them. This is not doing your duty. Doing your duty is about understanding our roles and taking it up because you want to do it. You want to be better at it. So it'll only make you better. It won't take you away.
This is the last question. What should we be doing on a daily basis to develop the intellect?
I'm not going to ask all of you to come and visit the Vedanta Academy in India. Fortunately, we have technology. The knowledge is available in the form of books, it's available in the form of e-learning, it's available in the form of sessions like this. But what is unique about this approach of Vedanta, the Vedanta Academy, is that it is structured study. So you can start from the beginning and go deeper and deeper into the subject. But remember, it's not to become a professor of the subject or to lecture on it, it's just to better yourself. And the only practice that's required is invest half an hour in your day to read or listen to some material from this course, from this structured course. So it could be the 12 books, or it could be the e-learning course, which does lectures on the 12 books. And go session by session at your own pace, your own time. Ideally every day or as frequently, regularly as possible. Half an hour, half an hour. A little bit of reading, a little bit of listening, and then reflect. Make it your own. But for our youths in the audience today, maybe a practical way to get inspired and take this knowledge further is we have our annual youth camp. It's coming up on the 18th, so just around the corner. It's from the 18th to the 22nd of December, and it's mainly teenagers. So please, if you have teenagers or if you are a teenager, invest 5 days. Come and see what it's about. We've got 70 kids from 12 countries coming. Come and experience it. We've got yoga, foods. I had a look at the menu. It's looking good as well. And we've got group discussions, lectures, a movie with movie discussions. Come and invest in building your golden life. And the second aspect, for others, we have our Sunday wisdom sessions. So we will resume our Sunday wisdom sessions in January. But for those of you who have not been a part of them, the Sunday wisdom sessions is a weekly session that we have at 7 p.m. India time, where we take up an inspiring quality or a concept and we discuss it. But we also keep time for Q&A. So there's an opportunity that from your studies that you might have any questions about life or something that you're going through. You have an opportunity every week to bring it up and discuss it with a group that's from around the world, and on a weekly basis, get inspired. In addition, we have recorded all the Sunday wisdom sessions. So for those of you who would like to listen to it as a podcast or on YouTube, all of the different avenues are available, and you're welcome to go lecture by lecture, starting with the first Sunday wisdom session right up to the current one. And if you scan this QR code, you'll be added to the group where all the information of events, classes, Zoom details are put in the group, as well as the recordings. For those of you who want information about the e-learning, the books, the courses, the intro lectures that we have available, have a look at vedantan.online. All the information is there, as well as our itinerary for next year. So you can see when we will be visiting your part of the world, and let's meet, let's interact. Always better in person. So until we meet at the academy or in your part of the world, have a good December, everyone, and don't compromise. Go for gold.